event within the Ummah, particularly to the Turkey and Syria region. The devastating earthquakes, the series of earthquakes rather, that have left so many people homeless, that have left so many people orphaned, so many people without basic needs and necessities. So today's chapters from Imam al-Bukhari's Adab Mufrad relates to this in the sense that today's subject or the topic of today's discussion will be the importance given by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to orphans. So without further ado, inshallah, we will commence. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Babu fadlu man ya'ulu yatima. Imam al-Bukhari says, the virtue of that person who looks after an orphan. Now, just imagine how many people went to sleep that night with their parents, with their mothers and fathers, either in the same building or in a different building or in a different place. And many of them, the parents may not have survived, but their mothers or their fathers have left this world, but they were left orphaned, young and old. Allahu Akbar. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alleviate their suffering. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be their guardian, be their protector. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provide for them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also make us a means to support them and help them and be the means of looking after them. So the first hadith that we will discuss today is the virtue of that person who looks after and takes care of an orphan. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الساعي على الأرملة والمساكين كالمجاهد في سبيل الله وكالذي يصوم النهار ويقوم الليل. الساعي is a person who tries very hard, who exerts himself, who works towards, makes some effort, does something. Why? What for? على الأرملة والمساكين, for looking after the poor, the needy, the orphaned, those people who have gone through difficulty and have no one to look after them. So the person who looks after them or makes some contribution or some effort to set up something that they can be looked after for and taken care of, and they becomes a sort of a guardian for them, becomes a sort of a patron for them, so that they're looked after, they're well kept in terms of their physical, in terms of their health, in terms of their livelihood, in terms of any aspect of their life. A person who works hard to try and better that and provide a service for the poor and the needy, they will get the same reward as that person who strives for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You'll get the same reward as that person who every single day if a person was to fast every single day of his life and was to stand in prayer, in tahajjud every night of his life, the great reward and the great rank that person can attain through that worship. A person who takes care of the orphans, the poor and the needy will get the exact same reward. Even that person doesn't need to fast any nafil fasts or pray any extra tahajjud or qiyamul layl to gain that grand rank with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just the fact that they are trying to provide for and help and assist someone who is maybe not as fortunate as them, who has gone through some difficulty, some tribulation, who has been struck in the example we have right now before our eyes, the example of the Turkey and Syria earthquake that has occurred, and how a person can maybe try and provide some maybe financial support, maybe can send some aid, maybe can send some medical aid, maybe can send some food product, maybe the charities that are working on the ground that can provide some food and drink for them, can maybe provide some maybe temporary accommodation for them, and maybe look towards projects to how to house them. These are all amazing projects which, mashallah, every single charity that we can see before our eyes and that we know of, every single charity has turned their attention towards this. So we too can earn this great reward that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is teaching in this hadith. Rasulullah is training his Sahaba to be people that look after others, that take care of others, that become the bedrock for others, that become the source of protection and a source of a comfort for the rest of the ummah. This concern for others, this concern for the ummah, which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself was a personification of, and the way he trained and raised the Sahaba to be. Unfortunately, this concern for the ummah has left our hearts. Today, me and you, we only think about ourselves. As long as I've got good food, as long as I have good clothes, as long as I am happy and I am in comfort, it doesn't matter about anyone or anything else. No, this is not the teaching or the character Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam embedded within the Sahaba. What did he embed within the Sahaba? لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. None of you can be a complete or a true believer. You can't be true to your claim as a Muslim, as a mu'min, as a believer, until you love for others, you love for your brother what you love for yourself. And how did the Sahaba enact on this? There's various stories that we can go into the details of various stories and examples from the lives of the Sahaba and how they forewent and forego their own rights, their own basic needs, just for the sake of others. And subhanAllah, some of these stories that we are getting from the ground right now from Turkey and Syria, from the earthquake, is that so many people, despite losing everything, they are showing this compassion and this ikram for others also. They're not being selfish, they're not thinking about themselves. No. And this is an example of the very characteristic which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam embedded within the Sahaba and trained the Sahaba and built their character as such. The next chapter, باب فضل من يعول يتيما له. عن عائشة زوج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قالت جاءتني امرأة معها ابنتان لها فسألتني فلم تجد عندي إلا تمرة واحدة فأعطيتها فقسمتها بين ابنتيها ثم قامت فخرجت فدخل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فحدثته فقال من يلي من هذه البنات شيئا فأحسن إليهن كن له سترا من النار. Subhanallah, beautiful hadith. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha is relaying a incident which occurred where, now, before we discuss this hadith, what is the definition of an orphan in the Islamic tradition? So an orphan is any child who has lost either their father or both the parents. Even if only they've lost their father, they still have their mother, but the fact that the sole provider of that family, or the guardian of that family, the main guardian or provider or the breadwinner of the family has now ceased to exist and has sadly left the world, and as such this person now will be classed as an orphan. Right till the age of puberty they will be classed as a Shari'i orphan, and after that, after the age of puberty, the specific ahkam which the Islamic law has, which the Quran and Sunnah and Fiqh and Islam has prescribed, the rulings regarding orphans will be restricted to that. But after that, they will still be obviously a person after the age of puberty, despite being now a mature individual, still misses and needs that support and guidance of a father figure. So it's not restricted to only a child before the age of puberty, although the ahkam will be restricted to that, but generally a person should continue to support and look after even after the age of puberty. But generally, when it comes to the Islamic terminology, the word orphan would apply to that child who has lost either the father or has lost both the parents. So over here in this incident which Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha is relating, this is an incident wherein a mother has come with her two orphaned children, and unfortunately they had no one or nothing, and they've come to the home of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they've come to the beloved wife Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, beloved wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She says, جاءتني امرأة معها ابنتان لها. This lady came to me and she had two young orphan girls with her. فسألتني, she asked me if I can support her or give anything, to help. Maybe they're hungry, they haven't eaten for a long time, they need some support, they need something. And Aisha radiallahu ta'ala, what does she say? فَلَمْ تَجِدْ عِنْدِي إِلَّا تَمْرَةً وَاحِدًا. Allahu Akbar. Can you imagine what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family himself were going through? He says that I couldn't find anything in the home except for one date. This is the house of the leader of mankind, the best of creation, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the purpose of all creation, the light of all creation, the guide for all creation, the beloved of the creator of all creation. And he has nothing in his home except for this one date. His wife cannot find anything to give except for this one date, and she takes the date and she gives it. Can you imagine? We would say that, we would feel embarrassed that to give, someone's come to ask for help and the only thing we can give is one date. We'll actually feel embarrassed. Aisha radiallahu anha, she gives this one date and she just observes, what does this mother do with this date? The mother takes the date and she splits it in half. She gives one half to the other, one child, and the other half to the other child, and she does not have anything for her own self, despite the mother could have maybe possibly kept one half for her and the second half could have split it into quarters and given it to the orphan children. But no, look at the compassion of the mother. She splits the date into half, one half to one orphan daughter, the other half to the other orphan daughter, and she has nothing for herself, and like this she goes away. And Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she is amazed at the compassion of the mother and how the mother, forwent her own needs and her own feelings and what she was going through, and she, just because she wanted to ensure that her little orphan children could have something to nourish themselves with, even if it just is half a date. Can you imagine? What is the size of one date? Is so small. What is half a date? And this is all they are having. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam returns home, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she narrates the whole incident to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She says to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that this is what happened today. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man yali min hadhihi al-banati shay'a," whoever takes care of any of these types of children, any of these types of daughters who have become orphaned, and they still try hard to look after them and take care of them. فَأَحْسِنَ إِلَيْهِنَّ, and they try their best. They be good to them, they be kind to them, they be compassionate to them. They try their best to help orphans out. كُنَّ لَهُ سِتْرًا مِنَ النَّارِ, they will be a veil and a shield and a protector from the hellfire, subhanallah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability. This is a very important time within our lives. We're also getting very close to the month of Ramadan, and we can utilize these special, we're in the month of Sha'ban, the special blessed days of Sha'ban are within us, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would utilize the month of Sha'ban to prepare for Ramadan. And one of the things that, mashallah, the ummah is very prevalent in doing in the month of Ramadan is the immense charity projects that take place and the immense amount of charity that the Muslim ummah gives out in the month of Ramadan. Let us prepare. You may have maybe heard many of the muftis that have recently been explaining the rulings regarding a person's zakah and how normally people are accustomed to have their zakat date in the month of Ramadan, but it is permissible to give your zakat in advance. And right now the dire need is there for the people who are suffering from this earthquake. So many of them have become orphaned, and so many of them have lost their parents, they've lost their homes, they've lost their entire livelihood in a space of 90 seconds. Allah, can you imagine? A person can have everything, and in one moment Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to change the affairs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can turn a person's life upside down. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes. This is a test. The test for them is their sabr and forbearance, but the test for you and I is, what are we doing to support them? What are we doing to help them? Can we help them financially? Can we help them making dua for them? Can we send some support and aid to them? Can we provide for them? Can we maybe look towards projects that can help sustain them and take care of them? This is our test now. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me, you, and all of us the ability to take fruit and contribute immensely and be a source of support to the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. باب خير بيت فيه يتيم يحسن إليه. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خير بيت في المسلمين بيت فيه يتيم يحسن إليه وشر بيت في المسلمين بيت فيه يتيم يساء إليه أنا وكافل اليتيم في الجنة كهاتين ويشير بإصبعيه. Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu says that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, the best home, or the best of homes, is that home of the Muslims that has a orphan that is being taken care of, that is being looked after. So one is that a person can maybe support in different ways for orphans, But a greater way of supporting orphans, if someone is able to take that fostering care and become a foster carer and take in that orphan. You know, maybe it won't be possible for the people who are in the earthquake, but maybe we might have people within our communities who have become orphaned. And mashallah, there are many people who are now getting into foster care and are getting trained and ensuring that they have the correct provisions to be foster carers. You know, this is a great rewarding act to become a foster carer, to take care of an orphan. That home that can take care of a child that has lost everything. Rasulullah is describing that home. خَيْرُ بَيْتٍ فِي الْمُسْلِمِينَ. That is the best Muslim house. Of all the Muslim houses, the best Muslim house is that house that has an orphan, or house that is being taken care of, that is being looked after, that is being shown compassion and love and mercy, and that is being nurtured in this way. وَشَرُّ بَيْتٍ فِي الْمُسْلِمِينَ. The worst Muslim house is that house that if a person, now very easily a person can misuse their advantage, and sometimes, unfortunately, people are they're not careful of the way they treat people who are less advantaged than them. And so the Rasulullah said the worst home is that home wherein maybe there is an orphan, but they are ill-treated, they are not taken care of, they are inconvenienced and offended and disrespected and taken advantage of. That is the worst type of home, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is and this is not restricted to just orphans. And when you have an orphan in your home, anyone who's been in that position of power or authority, or is in a position of influence, that has the responsibility, or that has the guardianship of others who are not as advantaged as them, not as capable as them, and they misuse that advantage to meet their own interests, and they ill treat and take advantage and bully, and they are very rude, and they are very bad towards people who are lesser, of a lower advantage to them, who they have maybe power over, they have authority over, they have influence over, they have an advantage over. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is describing them as the worst of type. The worst type of those type of people. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, which is a statement which is a very famous hadith when it comes to orphans. أنا وكافل اليتيم كهاتين في الجنة وأشار بإصبعه. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, me and the one who takes care of an orphan will be like this in Jannah, and he put his two fingers together and he indicated with his two fingers. Just like these two fingers, if I hold it together and how close they are, that's how close Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that I will be, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be to that person who was a person who took care of orphans. Now let us maybe take this opportunity to draw closer to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and earn this great rank of being blessed with being together with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the closest to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Jannah, by being from those people who can take care of orphans. Now, how should a person be towards orphans? باب كن لليتيم كالأب رحيما. أسماء بنت عبيد قال قلت لابن سيرين عندي يتيم قال اصنع به ما تصنع بولدك. Allah subhanallah. So Ibn Sirin, a great scholar from the Salaf, from the first three generations of Islam, one of the Imams of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Imam Muhammad ibn Sirin, great scholar, amazing scholar. Imam Tirmidhi concludes his Shama'il also. If you remember the Shama'il we studied, the Imam Tirmidhi concludes his Shama'il with the athar, with the statement of Muhammad ibn Sirin, إِنَّ هَذَا الْعِلْمُ دِينٌ فَانْظُرُوا عَمَّنْ تَأْخُذُونَ دِينَكُمْ. This knowledge is this in هذا العلم دين. This knowledge itself that we are learning and acquiring, this itself is deen. فَانْظُرُوا عَمَّنْ تَأْخُذُونَ دِينَكُمْ. Be very careful, be careful of who you take your deen from. This is a very important statement for every single one of us. Nonetheless, Muhammad ibn Sirin, this is an author which Imam al-Bukhari has brought over here. Asma bin Ubaid, he is although normally Asma is used as a female name, Asma is also one of those names which sometimes can be used for both. And over here, the person who is being described, Asma bin Ubaid, is a son of Ubaid. And he is from the people of Basra. He narrated from Anas bin Malik radiallahu ta'ala an. And he's also, he passed away in the 141st year after Hijrah, and Imam Ibn Hibban has also narrated as Asma bin Ubaid as one of those reliable sources of hadith. Nonetheless, Asma ibn Ubayd radiallahu ta'ala anhu, rahimahullah radiallahu an, he says that I said to Muhammad ibn Sirin, I went to Muhammad ibn Sirin, I told him that, I'm taking care of an orphan, give me some advice, give me some tips, give me some nasiha. So Muhammad ibn Sirin said, Isna' bihi ma tasna'u biwaladik. Treat him the same way you treat your own children. And this Imam Bukhari, the chapter title he's given over here, Imam al-Bukhari says, Kun lil yatim kal abir rahim. Subhanallah, beautiful statement. Kun lil yatim kal abir rahim. Be for an orphan like a compassionate father. Allahu Akbar. Beautiful statement of Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah. Imam al-Bukhari, what a beautiful chapter heading he has given for this one hadith here. Kun lil yatim kal abir rahim. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me and all of us the ability to be for orphans. Kal abir rahim. Like a compassionate father. It's like a loving, compassionate father with what love and compassion takes care and treats and deals with his children the same way. If a person is taking care of orphans, then let him also be that father figure, the mother figure, be that compassionate individual, the compassionate guardian, the source of protection, the source of care for that unfortunate individual who has suffered a tragic loss, such a great loss. We won't realize the favor and the importance, maybe the extent of it in our lives of our parents, until when a person experiences when they are no longer under the care and shadow of their parents, no matter how old we may get in our lives. باب فضل المرأة إذا تصبرت على ولدها ولم يتزوج. عن عوف بن مالك رضي الله تعالى عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أنا وامرأة سعفاء الخدين امرأة آمت من زوجها فصبرت على ولدها كهاتين في الجنة. Allahu Akbar. So this is the last hadith which narrates to orphans. Also can relate to the next topic as well, but when relating to orphans, this is talking about the virtue of that type of, sometimes, subhanallah, there are some amazing women in the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam who, when their husbands pass away and they have children, now they could be at a stage where they could have remarried and got on with their lives, but they chose to dedicate the rest of their life to looking after the well-being, nurturing and upbringing of their children. Subhanallah, my grandmother, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prolong her life also. Subhanallah, she was in her prime of her youth when my grandfather passed away. Both were very young, and she had 4 children. My father was the youngest, who was only 2 years old at that time. So, and with such little children, despite losing her husband, she dedicated the rest of her life to just taking care and bringing up and nurturing and taking care of her 4 children, subhanallah. And mashallah, today, mashallah, they are very well established in their lives, and mashallah, they've got their own. Most of them are now even grandparents of their own, and subhanallah, the way she looked after them all on her own. This is the virtue of these type of women which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam describing over here. Fadul mar'a, the virtue of that woman, إذا تصبرت على ولدها ولم يتزوج. She forbears with patience and forbearance. She takes care of and she dedicates her life to her children, and she does not remarry. Although it's completely permissible, and sometimes it is also recommended that maybe a person, if she was to remarry, maybe she could get some financial support from a partner who can maybe aid her in the upbringing of her children. But sometimes a woman chooses not to remarry and just dedicates her entire life to looking after her children. And of the Malik radiallahu ta'ala an Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, قال أنا وامرأة سعفاء الخدين. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, me and that woman whose cheeks have become darkened or stained. Now, this is a metaphor which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is using, that a person whose cheeks have changed color because they've worked so hard. If a person is continuously working and working very, very hard, and sometimes the environment they're working with as well, for example, if a person is working in mines, works with charcoal, works with different builders, plumbers, plasterers, you see sometimes while they're working, their hands or their faces, or they change color. The effects of of their hard work is visible on their physical appearance. So this is a metaphor which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is using of that woman who has worked so hard in her life just to take care of her children. From the extreme hard work that she undertook. امرأة آمت من زوجها فصبرت على ولدها. That type of woman who became widowed from her husband, and she chose to not remarry, and she chose to dedicate her life, and she with sabr and forbearance she dedicate her life على ولدها, on her children. كهاتين في الجنة, I will be with her together, that she will be very close to my rank in Jannah also. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying and elevating the rank of such a woman. It's not mentioned over here, but there's another hadith which of a similar nature, in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, he uses the same word, imra'atun sa'fa'ul khaddain, that woman whose cheeks have changed color because of the metaphor used here for the extreme hard work and the difficulty that she endured. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I am amazed that when I am going towards Jannah, that these type of women are racing with me, getting towards Jannah. Subhanallah. A beautiful, another metaphor which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam uses in another hadith, but to establish the high rank they will be blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah, because they dedicated their entire life to looking after and taking care of their orphan children. Now the test is, the message and the moral for you and I going forward is, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a perfect opportunity that there are people across the ummah that are going through difficulty, particularly right now, this moment in time in Turkey and in Syria, particularly when the survivors of the earthquake, many of them have become orphans, subhanallah. Many of them have become orphaned. Many of them have lost their children. Many of them have lost their entire families. Many of them have lost their body parts. Many of them have lost their entire home and livelihood. Now is a time for you and I to support them, send some financial support, make dua for them, send some aid for them, send some medical aid for them, contribute towards projects that will help to house them and sustain them. For this will be the investment for our akhirah. This will be us, the test which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is placing upon the rest of the ummah right now. This is our test now, that how we will react to this. How will we react to this devastating catastrophe which has rocked the Muslim ummah? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for every single one of those poor young children and those poor mothers and fathers and those poor families that at one point may have had everything and suddenly they've lost everything. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be the aid for them, be the sense of support for them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be himself the sole guardian and protector for them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alleviate their suffering and make it easy for them, grant them afiyah, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shower his eternal and perpetual mercy on the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidil mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een.